Hello everyone, welcome to part 18 of this series. Today we're setting up armor and loot drops. There are several ways to do this, but depending on the way your armor is set up, you have to take a certain approach. So before we start this scene, I would like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. This scene will be made available on Patreon. So here we are in our basic scene, and we're back. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to decide which armor we're going to select. So I'm going to use this armor, and the reason for that is because I want it to be a loot drop. If this enemy dies, that we get a random piece of armor he has equipped. Reason for that is simply because I really do enjoy the having armor pieces on me that enemies can wear as well. And if an enemy wears an armor, I want to be able to wear it in a loot game. That's pretty much the idea. So that's why I'm using this. If you do not like that, you want something else, just follow the same steps for something else. Doesn't really matter. So he's using preset 4, so that's what we're going to use. Now I do want to highlight from the start one breaking point, basically. So we have the ability to change skin color, and the way we do this with our character customization is we are literally changing materials. The problem with this is that we are going to put on these new pieces, and that changing the skin color for these body parts, because as you can see these are body parts, it's not going to work. Now there will be basically two solutions. So one is going to be create a custom action just for the Sinti Heroes pack, because again, as you can see, they're not actually just clothing pieces, they're literally body parts. Another option would be to change the meshes, so cut the meshes, which is going to be a bit more work. So I will check to to create a custom action that allows us to do that for this prefab. It's not going to be in this video. I haven't created the action yet, but I do want you to be aware of that's going to be one basically breaking point. So skin color won't work for the pieces where we change skin color. So just want you to be aware of that. If you are using an entirely different asset for this and not using Sinti Heroes, Modular Heroes like I am, then it's literally irrelevant. But I wanted to point that out, so keep that in mind. So that won't work properly right now, and I'll have to come up with a custom action for this. So that's for changing material colors. So we'll get there. It's just not working right now. Anyway, so let's get started now that that's out of the way. So where is it? Heroes, prefabs, presets, and we have 4. There we have it. So I'm going to unpack this prefab. I'm also going to create a new folder here. So assets, create, where's folder, and this will be armor sets. Otherwise it's going to get messy if this doesn't have its own folder. And here we have our our guy. Going to turn off all of these, and we're going to turn off everything except for torso, and we have our torso. So as you can see, the torso is fine. There's no skin color pieces here, so this will look just fine. But yeah, pieces with skin color are, with skin parts are just not going to work. With character customization, changing skin colors, the way we set it up right now. So we'll come with a solution, but not yet. So let's call this chest basic. You can call it whatever you want. And we have our prefab. I'm going to unpack this one again. And we'll call this gloves basic. And here's one, minor thing. So the way I'm setting it up is that all of these will consist of the gloves, basically. And, you don't have to do that. really want to point that out, if you want to have literally several different pieces for everything, so for hands, you can do that. It's up to you. It's your inventory system. Just keep in mind, the more pieces you have, the more you'll have to create, the more inventory management the player will have to do. So there's definitely downsides to doing that. I just wanted to highlight that. So you can group it differently as well. You can add these to the chest, for example, and it's up to you. Anyway, this will be gloves basic, and there we go. So we have those set up. Now, next thing I'm going to do is not any logical order. I just don't want to forget doing this. This will be our HUD interactor. And the interact we have when we pick up an object, well, basically we need to turn that into a prefab because we need to turn that on locally. Well, it doesn't need to be a prefab, it just helps basically. So let's remove everything else. And in interactor, let's just have pickup on, and let's remove mount. And we're going to keep all of the actions here, the animation effect, but we're going to remove everything else. So attribute UI, remove, and HUD interactor, let's remove these as well because we don't need any of that. And yeah, we don't even need, I'm just going to call this HUD interactor. There we go. Drag it out. We don't need the parent either. So this is the canvas, and that's what we're going to make into a prefab. Let's remove this as well. And there we have our prefab set up. Next thing we're going to do is preferences, and we're going to add some additional armor types. So right now you'll have all of these armor types. If you have the inventory examples installed, which I would definitely recommend. And we're going to add chest, gloves, maybe gloves is not the right name, but and boots. And yeah, boots is going to have the short as well. I mean, you'll have to decide how you manage that. You can have, well, let's do shorts separately. Pants or whatever you call them. Let's do them separately. Cool. So I accidentally removed the original inventory example armor one, but basically this is the one. So basic armor, it's called armor, and I just changed the name to basic armor, changed the description, and need to change the sprite to this one. It's not a matching sprite, I just want to be clear. Doesn't match at all. You should definitely create your own sprites that actually match the armor pieces. Then we will allow to stack this, that's fine. And this needs to be, we're going to do nothing here. And we're going to select equipment chest, the one we just created. So on equip, we're going to equip our basic armor. That's quite important that you select that. And we're going to add, well, instantiate this. Now, if you for some reason don't have this action, let me remove it and add it manually. So we're going to go to inventory, instantiate skinned mesh, and we're going to drag in the armor we just created. So armor sets and chest basic. On unequip, we're going to copy over this action, paste it in, and we're going to remove it. And yeah, that's it. So these are the actions we're going to do on here. Now we do need to do something additional, because basically the way this works with Cinti modular pack is, like I said, this is not an armor piece, it's an entire body part. So if you have a different asset that literally uses armor pieces that go on top of the mesh of the the basic chest, for example, this is literally where it would end, and you'd be good. But it doesn't work like that with the Cinti one. So we're going to, on the player, create a new empty here. I'm going to call this armor sets. Let's Let's add that S. There we go. I'm going to add a trigger. On equip type, we're going to do, again, nothing. General equipment chest. I'm going to have an action here. And we're going to set active. And we're going to drag in that chest. So male parts, torso. And again, we need to do this because right now it will just, put the chest on top, but you'll see some visual glitches because this one is still underneath. Because the way Cinti Modular Pack was set up was never for it to be separate pieces. They are literally new body parts. So we need to turn off the original. So let's make sure that's actually turned off. And as you might imagine, yeah, so on, equip, we need to turn it off. Trigger, on unequip, again, type any, so let's do nothing. Unequip, chest, so that's the type. Let's duplicate this, so equip chest. Duplicate this, unequip chest. Is that one word? That's one word. And we're going to turn this back on. So quite important that you do this, otherwise, you'll be without a chest. So yeah, that's it for the chest, and we'll need to do the same thing for the gloves, unfortunately. So it's a tiny bit of manual work, but the way I initially did this was way more work. So in comparison to what I had before, this is really not that bad. So general equipment and gloves, and again a unequip type, nothing, general equipment, gloves. I did notice that, for example, doing a copy component will not work properly, so don't do that. Just don't. So equip gloves, and it doesn't matter which gloves these are, by the way. That's the nice thing about this. The initial way I had it, you would have had to do this for every different type of armor piece. Luckily, this way is actually a lot faster. So and yeah, as you might imagine, then we'll need to do it for the gloves. And again, it completely depends on how you set all of this up. So I grouped all of these together. If you, group different items together, then you just have to do it, the same, but in a different order. What is it? That was upper left and right, lower right, lower left. Oh. Need to do the gloves as well. So the hand, basically. And again, it might make sense to, actually have that in a different category. It's just how much work you want to put into it. There we go. So that was a bit of work to set up, but these were a lot of body parts, to be honest. This is the most amount, everything else is just one piece as well. And we're going to duplicate this again, unequip, gloves, and we're going to turn all of these back on. And there we go, perfect. So let's drag in these actions. So equip gloves, unequip gloves, and there we go. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Should work pretty well, and I honestly can't remember, we did not actually set up any gloves, did we? So let's create that. So duplicate this one. Basic armor is just going to be basic gloves. Don't know why I have this all mixed up. Basic gloves armor. Wow. So basic armor and basic gloves. These need new a new sprite, and I'm just going to pick something at random here just to be clear. I just don't have sprites that would, you know, feel appropriate. 33. Then again, we're going to do nothing here just to make sure it's actually turned off. Gloves. This needs to be our basic gloves. There we go. On equip, obviously this needs to be gloves basic, and on unequip this needs to be gloves basic as well. Now if you want to add conditions, so level caps, that's actually a lot easier than you can imagine. So you basically just add a condition, go to not variable, stats. If you've installed the example stats examples, then you go to stat value and you have level. If you didn't install the examples, I would recommend installing them, honestly. Or you can just set this up manually, but you know, just install the examples, just easier. So player level greater or equal 10, and then you have a level cap. That's it. So that's it for our armor and gloves. If I'm correct, they should all be working just fine now. Pretty sure I did it the right way, so we're just going to test this out and see if it works. So I'm going to add a really temporary trigger here. It's just going to be an on-start trigger. I'm going to remove this straight away. This is just for testing purposes, just to see if it works. So item, and we're going to add our armor and our gloves. Cool, so let's open up our inventory. This is really small, by the way. Let me make this a bit bigger. There we go. And yeah, we didn't actually set up our inventory to be able to house all of this. So let's do that. So menu, I'm not even going to turn it on, it will just work. So inventory tab, inventory content, inventory, header, menu. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. So this is the one, tab sorts to. Just going to rename this to tab close or armor. There we go. Yeah, and this I'm going to do nothing again, and so general equipment, helmets, I think I already had that, I'm not sure why I removed that. Chest, gloves, boots, and yeah, I added pants as well apparently. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. So now they're here, yay. And the gloves equip just fine. So there we go, all beautiful. As you can see in the preview, they're gone, and I'll show you how to avoid that as well. Now as you can see, I'll check why the chest, I'm pretty sure I made a mistake somewhere in the inventory. We can do that now actually, this will just save. Oh, there we go. So the type was set to gloves and the type needs to be set to chest. Maybe we can live do this. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, this works beautifully fine. Works really well. It's good. We'll fix this. But now if we go to our, our skin color, we'll change the rest of the skin color. But as you can see, the hands, etc., are not changing. And yeah, like I said, I'll have to, for this specific case of using this asset, I have to come up with a custom action that allows me to change just the skin color of the Cinti material. Don't really have a choice. The default change color won't work because the material has 20 different types of colors. So, but yeah, this works. We're good there. That's nice. So let's turn that off. Now, as you might remember, the way we set it up with the layers is that we can only see a certain layer, and that layer was character for our inventory, which means that if we go to chest basic, let's just turn them all to character. Where's character? There we go. Yes, change children. And gloves basic, again layer, character as well, change children. There we go. So yeah, they were simply not displaying because they were the wrong layer. So that's all done as well. So we'll just display just fine in our inventory, which is what we want to happen anyway. So we're good there. So it works. That's really good. I mean, you know, that's what we want to do. But now we're actually going to set it up so that this actually drops as a loot drop. And talking about many different ways this could be done, you know, you could have a, you know, some games have a sort of bag that drops, and, you know, you can, from that bag, pick up items inside, or you could drop the items themselves. Now, I'm going to drop the items themselves because I want to do randomized loot, but one downside of this is that, you know, if you drop the arms, they're literally going to look like this. So that's not ideal. I mean, for the chest, it's fine, you know, it's not really a problem. For the arms, it looks a bit weird. And yeah, you know, the way you can manage this again is, you know, instead doing a bag, which just makes, you know, you basically don't have to create another mesh. That's the big advantage of that. Skyrim, for example, you know, you have a different mesh for the world object and the object you're actually wearing. That's not included in the asset, so I'm not going to set that up. It's, you know, I don't want to go through that work. But if you want to do that, you know, that's completely fine. If you want to take the bag approach, you know, just follow along. It will be pretty much the same. So now that that's out of the way, let's actually start setting all of that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our props, and no, not props, items, there we go. And we're again going to duplicate that pickup sword. Now we've done this so many times, but there's a reason for that. The pickup sword is, you know, nicely set up. So it has the activator, you know, all of that stuff, which is good. Going to drag in that HUD interactor prefab we created, so that's pretty important. This will be pickup basic chest, or chest basic, whatever it was I used. I'm not really sure where this is actually. Okay. Yeah, dragging in that that HUD element might have had something to do with what's going on here. That's okay. So basic chest, HUD interactor, we're good there. And we have our prop. We need the new prop, so that's going to be this chest. I'm going to remove the sword. Actions are going to be pretty much the same, except for this pickup. We need to change that. So we're going to drag in our HUD interactor. And the reason we need to do this is because we are creating a prefab here, and that means that you know, it won't have access to random, just normal seamed things. It will have access to this because it's part of the prefab, so that's why we needed to do that. And I think we have it one more time here, and there we go. So it's going to add our basic, I called it armor, I should have called it chest, but that's fine. It's going to add our armor, and, you know, that's it. So basic chest, and there we go. So I'm going to unpack this again, and this time I'm going to drag in our gloves instead. I'm going to remove the chest, and all I'm changing here is that it's adding our gloves instead. And there we go. Should have renamed that right straight away actually, but I forgot. So rename basic gloves, there we go. And I'm going to remove that again. Now, one important thing here is that everything needs to be set to 0, because we're going to spawn this in. So everything is set to 0. Yeah, I'm going to set all of this to 0 as well. There we go. Let's open this up. It's going to be slightly easier. And the same with our, well, the HUD doesn't matter, but the chest as well, all needs to be set to 0. Now let's open up those gloves. Again, all 0, all 0. And this one, all 0 as well. Cool. So yeah, that's done actually. So this needs to be turned off, by the way. I forgot to do that, so let's do that for the chest as well. And there we go. By default, it will be turned off, and the HUD is only going to be turned on if we are again in that proximity with the collider trigger. Cool. So we've created those, and the next thing we're going to do is create a spawner with sphere collider. Where are you? There we go. It's a bit low, but that's fine. I'm just going to drag it here. Again, this all needs to be set to 0 as well, because this is again going to be prefab. I'm going to do add spawner origin here. Spawn by weight. We'll have 2 spawnables. I'm going to do our pick basic chest and pick basic gloves. Quantity 1, 1, and I don't know, gloves are worth less, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. 50, 50, and you know, that's the chance it will drop. So respawning, disabled, despawn by distance. Yes, I do want that. That's going to be nice. Let's turn on gizmos. Now the radius of this needs to be big. It needs to be really big, because we're using the spawner because I do want the loot to automatically despawn. No, that's a bit too much. There we go. I do want the loot to automatically despawn at a certain distance, because this will help with clutter in our scene. So that's a nice thing of the spawner, you know, it's keeping performance in mind as well. And I do want this to eventually disappear. I don't want the scene to, you know, if you kill 200 guys, don't pick up anything, you'll literally just have random loot lying around. I don't want that. So that's why I'm using the spawner, because we can automatically despawn it based on distance. I think that's quite important. So add spawner origin, and yeah, we're good there. No respawning, and we have a chance drop. So it's random loot, it will be one of these items. Now we need to set that up for our player. So I'm going to call this basic armor loot drop. It's a bit of a mouthful, but there we go. And we don't need to use this only with enemies. You could, you know, have that spawner in chest as well, for example, or something like that. There's many use cases. So our character, enemy, where is his life and death? Life and death, there we go. So on death, he's going to instantiate our basic armor loot drop. There we go. So that's what he's going to instantiate. Let's make sure this is all 0. And perfect. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's actually it. So let's actually give this a go. So we're going to save here, and we're going to, well, we're going to kill this guy and see if he randomly drops our loot, and if it all works. So let's hope I can take him out quickly. That would be nice. Could have used magic, I guess, but that's fine. We'll just use the sword. It's already cool we have all of these options. We can use magic, sword, bow. I'm gonna lie, that's pretty cool. So let's give him a fighting chance. I do want him to face me. Let's not make it too easy either. Yeah, I'm going to cheat a bit. Come on, dude. It's a nice ragdoll. It's still weird. So right now, as you can see, nothing instantiated. Or did it? Well, it did actually. It did instantiate, but both of them are not active. That is interesting. So let's have a look. Yeah, they're not active. Interesting, interesting. So let's go into scene view. Let's actually check this out. We are in the area, so that's not really the problem. However, this is really, yeah, this is definitely explains what's wrong. So instantiating was done the wrong way. So let's go to our character again. So where is he? Enemy basic, life and death, and instantiate. Yeah, I made a mistake there. So transform. Just going to drag in the enemy. Maybe invoker would work as well, but that's fine. Just going to do 0.1. And let's try this again. So for our second try, I'll try to take him out quickly as well. That would be nice. So I still think the sword is the quickest because I didn't really set up any different type of damage as far as I'm aware. Can't lock on yet. Now I can. There we go. There we go. You can see me. And there we go. And that is definitely interesting. Our basic drop is actually here. Oh, but because the body flew away, we actually do have our drop. So maybe I'll have to have a look at a better route to spawn. And as you can see, our gloves are here. It's a bit strange, so I'll have to check the route. So pick up and body, and yeah, there we go. And we have our armor piece. Now I'm pretty sure it still was invisible, which is really interesting because I'm pretty sure we did solve that. So let's actually see why this is not visible. And the layer is still set to default, and I'm curious why, because I'm pretty sure I changed that. Huh. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. It doesn't seem like that actually works. So we can set the layer in the prefab, but for some reason it will still set the layer to default. So yeah, that's not great. That's definitely not great. So we'll have to come up with a solution for that. So let's have a look. So apparently it's irrelevant if you set it by default. I honestly never just checked that before. So we have a couple of options here, several options. So we can see if there's an action that automatically sets it, and I honestly really doubt that, but we can try. So yeah, it doesn't really seem like there's a way to an action to set the layer. So that's honestly proper annoying. Not that there isn't the action. I mean, I don't really see a lot of cases where normally you'd even have to consider doing any of that. So that's not going to work. That's that's too bad. So will always be default. That's kind of a shame. So, you know, obviously we will have an option for that. So for the instantiating, let's do that first, and then we can completely, you know, we can just continue. So for life death, where is it? Yeah, so it needs to be part of the, you know, the actual basic enemy, not the parents. So that's why it was so far away. Dragged in the wrong one, because this one is not going to go anywhere. That's not moving along, and you know, this is the one that needs to be stored in. So yeah, that's one. So we did that. We're good there. So for the camera, in order to actually see those pieces, the solution is it's actually a bit annoying, but I don't really see another way of doing it. It's basically setting everything else to a different layer and setting the player to default. I'll try to come up with better solutions for our inventory character in terms of the layers, and I'll create a custom action in order to make sure we can still change the skin color, because I do think that's, you know, quite nice, and I would really like to keep having that in our game here. So yeah, a bit of a long video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.